Good evening. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Kolpak. Here. Pepcorn. Here. Preston. Here. Strand. Here. Mahoney.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 9th, 2023 regular meeting and the January 11th, 2023 special meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 24?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Resident comments. I have two speakers tonight. Patrick Kelly is first. Wes Filame is second.
Wes Filame, he, him, his pronouns. I'd like to start by saying long live George Floyd and Anue Matchik. And justice for Shane Netterville. At the last City Commission meeting, our Human Resources Department provided insight into diversity data and hiring practices for our municipal government. The conversation centered around getting more Black applicants, which on the surface sounded great, but in reality was way off base. As previously mentioned by myself and the HR department, the city of Fargo has a demographic makeup of about 83% white and 8% Black. I ask that you keep that in mind as I review the hiring data presented at the last meeting. In 2020, Black people accounted for 10% of the applications submitted for jobs within the city of Fargo, but only 3.8% of the new hires. White people accounted for 74% of the applications, but 81.6% of the new hires. In 2021, 7.8% of the applications were submitted by Black people, but only 4.6% of the new hires were Black. 76% of the applications were submitted by white people, and they accounted for 90% of the new hires. In 2022, Black people accounted for 9.5% of the applications, but only 2.5% of the new hires. White people accounted for 77% of the applications, but 88.6% of the new hires. The applications submitted are perfectly in line with the demographic makeup of the city of Fargo. Black people are applying at a higher rate, actually, if you look at it. Our success rate, only 3.72% of Black people who applied in 2022 were hired. The success rate for white people was 4 times higher at 15.91%. That means that Black people are applying for jobs, we're just not being hired. It's not about needing more Black people to be hired, it's simply about giving us the opportunity. The only other excuse is to say that we're just not qualified, and standing here as an educated Black man, I know that's not true. Thank you.
We had a public hearing, so item 27, recommendation for the federal aid transportation project applications for the years 2026 and 2027. Jeremy Gordon to explain.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. As promised, decided to come back in 2 weeks, and here I am. So I hope I can keep this fairly brief. We can have a good discussion on the Broadway Bridge, but I'll just get right into it. So, last time I was here, we talked about Broadway Bridge being already receiving funding in federal aid in 2026. So I thought I'd bring you all up to speed on where we're at and the decisions that we've been made today on this bridge. So November, 14 months ago, there was a lot of discussion at the city commission level, but this is ultimately what you voted on, to apply for federal aid money to replace the bridge as it sits today. And a month later, or 2 weeks later, you included the bridge demolition project in your 2022 capital improvement plan. As luck would have it, it's getting bid out tomorrow, and hopefully it'll be demolished by fall. So I'll just get into the Broadway, the specifics of this. You can see the red on here, the X on here, that's where the bridge is. The detour, when it gets flooded or closed like it is today, it's a 1 mile detour, or yeah, 1 full mile detour over to University back on 37th Avenue. And just some traffic data for all Red River bridges in Fargo. Looks like we got 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. I-94 carries more than half of the traffic that goes across the Red River. Main Avenue, 12th Avenue, 1st Avenue North, and you can see down the list. Broadway is the lowest of all the crossings at 3,000, or it was. And then just the bridge length data. You can see the bridge listed. I-94 is the longest, County Road 20 is the next. The 12th Avenue North bridge over the railroad tracks is about 1,800 feet, so that would be the longest one. But you can see these down the list. Broadway Bridge at 350 is the shortest. So here's just a graphic. If we were to lift it out of the Red River diversion, as some have suggested, it would be the blue alignment, more or less. I mean, a lot more engineering would have to go into this, but essentially that's the location where it would land up. And then the green line just shows you how far it is, just to the intersection just north of the wastewater treatment plant. So quick cost estimates to replace it just where it sits. We'd have $7.5 million for the bridge. We'd have $3 million for our road fix, pushing the road further west, as you can see there on the graphic. Total cost is $10.5 million. Like I said, our cost is more 6.75 versus Minnesota side because they don't have a road to fix while they're at it. And if we wanted to replace it above the diversion flows, we'd be at over $21 million. Yeah, the bridge would be almost a quarter mile long, and each side would be responsible for $10.5 million. So Commissioner Stan, you'd wanted to look at the floodway and the floodplain in this area. So this is the current FEMA floodway. That's the hashed pink and blue hashed area. That's the floodway. Thou shall not go into that area, essentially. And the 100-year floodplain is the aqua colored line. So there's a floodway and there's a 100-year floodplain. So you can see Royal Oaks Drive is basically out of that. And then our own City of Fargo setbacks that we enacted over a decade ago. We have the MDZS and the LDZS. It's basically 350 feet from the river center line. We want the minimum disturbance zone, and then 100 feet over that would be the limited disturbance zone. And then as part of that setback ordinance, there was an accept area. So there's 7 exceptions, and the one key one for this project would be roads, bridges, trails, storm drainage. They're permitted in this area as long as there's a demonstrated need. So we exempted ourselves looking forward when we enacted this. So in addition to our own rules, FEMA requirements, every bridge project over a water body has hydraulic modeling done to it to demonstrate how that is impacting the waterway, if at all. Just like we're doing on the 2nd Street pedestrian here, the consultants has a hydraulic model and they're seeing if you're going to place something in that waterway, what impact does it have? We need to reach a no rise. The consultant needs to get to the conclusion that there's no rise in the water surface elevation, both pre-project and then after the project if it's constructed. So none of us on staff can do this work, so our local consulting engineers do this work for us. So just specifically on this Broadway project, and then we can get into the other ones. You have a couple options in front of you. So today there's $4.2 million allocated to the project. It's in our MetroCog transportation plan, and it's in the state transportation plan. We could allocate $1.2 million as just a placeholder. making our federal total 5.4 million. And then you see the yellow at the bottom. Under either replace as is or replace above, we're going to need to hire a consulting firm. We're going to have to begin the environmental document, look at the cost benefit analysis, and then we can look at any and all design alternatives you can think of, and then come back to you in 10 to 12 months with really a final decision. So really what I'm asking for you tonight is, do we want to have a placeholder to replace as is? And we'd ask basically 1.2 million in addition to what we have. Or if we want to think about above the diversion flows, request 4.2 million in addition to what we have. Or you could say, Jeremy, enough's enough. Let's not replace this at all. And then we could reallocate the 4.2 million elsewhere on other important city projects.
But Jeremy, don't you have really a choice? We do nothing or replace the bridge, but you have to do an ROI on us if we do a higher one or a lower one. I understand what we're really asked tonight is, do we want a Broadway bridge? And you'll look at both. You'll look at replacement or you'll look at the bigger bridge. And then we'd get the report back from you. When we get the report, we'd make a decision on as it is or higher bridge. But we're making a decision tonight that we're not just going to not have a bridge, right? I mean, if we said we didn't want a bridge, we'd put the money elsewhere.
Right.
But isn't those are the two options we get tonight? We're not deciding one or the other. We're getting those two options.
Yeah, correct.
So if I can just quick jump in here. So to date, I went back and watched all the old videos and we definitely voted to put money in to have a project, a placement holder. That's kind of what we did, a placement holder. Well, to get these answers, we really need to invest in that environmental document to understand those impacts. So whether it's an ROI or a cost benefit ratio type of thing, we need to get into that environmental document to really understand that. And so I think the question today more is, do you want us to keep going down that path, put the 1.2 million into it, which was part of our recommendation, and get into that environmental document? We'll have a public process with that. And then we'll be back in that 10 to 12 months to have further conversation on what the right path is to move forward. You know, we do have a partner in this with Clay County. And so it really is a group decision as we move forward too, as to how that path looks.
Bishop Pepcorn?
So, Mr. Chair, I guess I would, if I was going to make a recommendation, I would recommend the second option, replace above diversion flows and do the environmental study. And if you can go back a couple slides and show the overhead of that, the map of the neighborhood, because what's happening now, keep going back a couple more, that shows the big overhead where it shows the County 20 bridge as well. Because what's anyway, what's happening? So if you look right now, what's happening? It shows the detour route, but what's happening is the detour doesn't go on to University Drive. It goes through that neighborhood. I know I drive on it all the time, and so it's impacting the neighborhood along the river there. And so I think that's one issue. And we have to look, 20 or 50 years from now, there's going to be more and more traffic in that area. We know that the industrial area where the Amazon area is going to impact that. And so that's my, if I was going to recommend, we still need to study it, but we cannot, I just think this is a huge mistake to build infrastructure in the diversion when we're building a diversion. To me, we should be setting the example and building everything so it's fully functional when we're having a flood. So that's my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Preston?
And I'm going to argue for the third option, which is do not replace. I think when you get into the cost-benefit analysis, it's going to be pretty evident. It already is evident. It's the lowest traffic bridge, and the cost keeps going up, and we're talking a few years out here yet. So I'm sure we'll be seeing you back with additional costs added on. I just and to respond to Commissioner Pepcorn's concern, if you go back to that again, that graphic, sorry. Certainly, there's some engineering design that could probably help decrease the traffic through the neighborhood, straighten out whatever 37th Avenue that is, make that connection more straight, and then put a stop sign going into the neighborhood. I mean, you could do a few things, I think, to cut down on the neighborhood traffic. So that, along with the fact that there's two bridges within a half a mile of each other, it's only a mile difference, it's probably 2 minutes worth of driving. And what kind of cost benefit would that have? I would much rather see, if we were going to do a cost benefit analysis, we need to be able to compare, to see a cost benefit analysis of this, along with, if we go forward with a build, that we have something to compare it to.
I think you're saying, Brenda, we would have that if you studied the two options, right?
Correct.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, the two options being no build or build?
Two options being build it as where it sits now, or doing the bridge that's up higher.
Yeah, and I'm asking for a cost benefit of a no replacement as well. Because, I mean, it'll become really evident which is the most cost beneficial. And, you know, when we talk about infrastructure dollars, we're struggling with keeping up with infrastructure reconstruction. And, you know, we're talking a fairly significant amount of local dollars, but certainly a lot of federal dollars. So I say we need to look at our priorities here, and this, in my mind, would not be one of them.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I'm very interested in learning what your analysis and studies would surface informationally for us to get a better handle of these three options: build as is, rebuild as is, build out of the floodplain, and or no build at all. But that said and done, I just have a difficult time seeing my personal professional vote go with any construction in the floodplain, in the lane, in the diversion itself. You know, we've battled with people up and down the valley about our requirements for the diversion, and all these impacted farmers and communities that are hit the way they are with the easements and the floodplains and the floodways and with the flowage channels. I just can't imagine how I would be able to say, well, our rules are different for us. That I know we left exceptions in there that we could work around our rules, but our rules are you can't build in the floodplain. I mean, that's what we're telling everybody. And we're not allowing anybody to. And this bridge is already there, but to take it and rebuild it, I'd like to see the information. I wouldn't I wouldn't close that door for your doing your analysis. And I'm forewarning you that it'll be hard to get me to go there, but I'll look and see what the information says.
So if I can ask you a quick question, and I just want to make sure we've got the right terminology. And so is your position then any bridge crossing the river? Because all the bridge crossing the river are going to have piers in the floodway. You can't not have anything in that area. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I mean, so is it that lower elevation and possibly the impact, or is it just having a bridge over the river? Because all of our bridges, the piers are in the floodway, and we do the modeling to show that we have a no rise to get that permit. And so I'm just trying to understand that where we need to help get you the information you need.
I'll say we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
One at a time, but I'm just not inclined to be very receptive to what I sense, what I on surface level perceive to be different rules for us versus everybody else.
Commissioner Kolpeck.
Thank you, Mayor. So I support proceeding with the $1.2 million analysis, environmental analysis with cost benefit as part of that. I know there was a lengthy discussion in 2021 when this vote was taken. It was 4-1 at the time. This is a convenience bridge, but we have heard from residents who want it there. And to me, it does not pay to double the price from 10.5 to 21 million, but it does make sense to me to complete the cost benefit analysis and proceed with the 1.2 million.
Commissioners, trying to answer your question is on this one, your farmers is a different thing when you're doing building in the floodplain. So the bridge is there now, so frequently in any of these issues on engineering basis, we can replace the bridge. Partial is the number and the count of numbers you see going across that bridge. And it's kind of a debate how much development north Moorhead's going to go and how much busier that bridge is going to get. But I remind you, a bridge that would, or a flood that will hit that bridge, how often will that happen, Brenda? How many weeks out will this bridge be if it's built at its present location?
The North Broadway Bridge?
Yeah.
Well, I had a slide. Since 1991, since it's been built, in 31 years, it's gone underwater, I think, 15 times in a spring flood.
For how long? Weeks? A couple weeks?
Usually it's 15 days.
15 days.
And since the beginning of record keeping, since 1901 on the river, it would have been out of commission 1% of the time, or
So
600 days.
1% out of the time, so it makes sense. And the other issue you have when you do build a longer bridge is the impact on the local neighborhood as well. Although I've seen now you have a longer span bridge that kind of gets away from that neighborhood so we don't have to take houses out. But I think it'd make good sense to look into it, get the questions you want answered, have them dive into the question you had. You're exactly right, Commissioner Strand, is we work so hard on the diversion. Let's answer the questions that we need to add. And Commissioner Pepcorn makes good comments as well. So which one do we need? Let's look at a study and get those answers. So Commissioner Kolpeck, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, can I clarify the motion? So it's the top motion then?
Correct. Well,
So that's to replace the bridge as is that correct?
excuse me, may I clarify?
Yes.
My motion was meant to proceed with the environmental analysis and come back with the cost benefit analyses and then make a decision.
And to look at both heights. It'll
Yes.
look at the as is,
Yes.
and it'll look at the height that's higher as well.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Commissioner
could
Preston.
add a amendment here, and we're not cutting back on the work that you're going to have to do if we're going to do both bridges and do cost benefit analysis on both. But I want to add that we to the motion that we also do a cost benefit on placement.
What's zero? You don't have any placement, it's done, it's taken apart, we're bidding this fall to be taken out. How would you do cost benefit analysis?
There's design issues in trying to reroute the traffic
Well,
and traffic calming issues.
yeah, we can look at all kinds of options, honestly. I mean, we can look at a wide variety of things. I mean, engineering consultants do this every day, so there might be an option that we haven't even thought of yet.
I'm
But
sorry,
it's-
Mr. Chairman, we have an amendment on the table. Haven't gotten a second.
I didn't
for
hear
it.
the motion. Can you make an informal motion, please?
I
Your
did.
amendment.
I move
Oh.
amend the motion to include a cost benefit analysis of no replacement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll take roll call on the first amendment.
Preston,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Kolpeck.
Aye.
Pepcorn,
No.
Mahoney.
No. Then we'll take any more discussion on the primary motion. Commissioner, or
If I could
Jim?
just clarify, the 1.2 million is just a placeholder for a future construction. And to hire a consultant, we're thinking $500,000 at the most. And that would be local funds.
Okay. Roll call vote on the major motion.
Kolpeck,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
No.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Thank you.
Oh, we still have more.
Hold
That
on.
was just on the Broadway Bridge. So we do have to vote on the other project. So when Jeremy was here 2 weeks ago, he
Yeah.
talked to you about the other projects we had along with that one.
And these are a lot less controversial, so I'll breeze right through this. So MetroCog, they're looking to give out $15 million. So just a quick recap, 52nd Avenue, these are the ones we're doing this year, the next year, so I'll go through these. So 2023, 52nd Avenue, we bid it out, it's gonna start this fall. $9 million in federal aid. In 2024, we have $10 million in federal aid. One of the projects is 32nd Avenue South, Phase 2, 22nd Street to University. In that same year, we're going to do some structural work on the 42nd Street Bridge over 94. In 2025, we get $300,000 federal aid. West Fargo's got a big project in their city that was awarded funds. So the only project we'll have in 2025 is some maintenance work on the bridge on 36th Street. And this is the project you just talked about. That's on the books for 2026 as of right now. And then the second project on the books is the pedestrian bridge over 40th Avenue South. So here's our goals and objectives, eight of the plan goals. So for monies, aside from Broadway Bridge, the 32nd Avenue Bridge I just showed, it's an expensive project. It's going to be an expensive project. We'd like to have $3.118 million added to that in 2026. We get paid back 2 years later or a year later. The Broadway Bridge, $1.2 million. And then in 2027, the pedestrian bridge over the river needs an additional $2.4 million. And then just for the new project that we're thinking about is reconstructing 17th Avenue South from University to 25th Street. And that's a $13 million construction cost, and we're looking to requesting $8 million federal. And then future projects that we're lining up federal aid would be First Avenue North in the downtown area. So here's the recommended motion on the other projects.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Kolpak.
I know I made this comment before, but I really appreciated, especially as a new commissioner, the approach for us to understand this complex information, the time we were given to digest it and ask additional questions. So thank you to the engineering team for the additional background.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Commissioner
could just ask a question.
Preston.
So the pedestrian bridge, pretty expensive. Is that typical? Is there something about that bridge that costs so much?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So as you can see here on the lower right, the yellow is the bridge out of the river permanently. It wouldn't be a lift bridge. So the red would be at grade, shared use path. The yellow would be a bridge, high bridge. When Houston Engineering came back with that price, I asked, should we be looking at a pedestrian bridge north or south of here where the ground is a little bit flatter that we could fit one in? And I think we're going to do that as part of the environmental work that they're doing.
Okay, okay.
I agree. It's $10 million. That's an incredible amount as
I
well.
mean, we just went through the conversation about the Second Street one, and the public balked at that one. Yeah, so I would, that's
Commissioner
good to hear.
Pipcorn.
So, Mr. Chair, this is an example. We're going to build this pedestrian bridge out of the floodplain and out of the diversion, correct? But we're proposing in North Fargo to build a bridge in the floodplain. So it's ironic. Thank you.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious. I don't know my history well enough and haven't been here to know it personally, but haven't there been discussions in that vicinity in South Fargo to have an actual bridge for traffic, for cars and vehicles across the river? Hasn't that been on the radar or not?
Probably 30 plus years ago.
And where did it just die, or is it no longer on the radar? Or?
I'm not certain, to be honest.
I'd be curious what the discussion was and where it was going to be and what they wanted and what happened or not with that topic.
And we can get you the history on that. The next bridge crossing, we have 52nd Avenue, and then the next slated one has always been 76. But we can go back and look at the history and the discussion that was on that, but that's not been
I
looked
think the
at.
citizens, John, for many years, I came here in 1980 and I always heard about this bridge on 40th, always heard about the myth of having that bridge. And then MetroCog took it up at one time and they said 52nd was there. the interest in it died. I think part of it is what's across the river on Moorhead side wasn't as developed as it is now. So now it's kind of a question of where would you, it'd be an arterial through a neighborhood basically, right? Like Brenda, it'd be.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's died in its popularity. But I think Commissioner Pipcorn on MetroCog, you guys have looked at bridges up and down the metro area trying to decide where is the next one, so. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please. Or excuse, do I have a motion? Yes, I do. You had a motion, yeah. Roll call vote, please.
No,
Mr. Chairman, did Jeremy?
no, just Commissioner Pepcorn. I appreciate your comments on lifting it out of the bridge or out of the river, but the geography in this location, the banks are pretty steep, so a lift bridge in this exact location wouldn't work. So that's why I've looked a quarter mile, half mile to the north, where the Dr. Mayer used to have his backyard that gently went into the river. So there may be some opportunities a little bit north of this picture.
Thank you. Roll call vote now?
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Public hearing, public input opportunity, application for Class GH alcoholic beverage license for Slice at Dwayne's, doing business as Dwayne's House of Peaches to be located at 1629 South University Drive. Steve Sprague to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The Class GH is a beer and wine license. The applicant newly purchased Dwayne's Pizza and is seeking to have this added to their lineup of menu items in that location. It went through the background check and comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Liquor Control Board.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak regarding this application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this? If not, let's close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Colpack.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item B, application for Class FA alcoholic beverage license for Plaza Azteca at Fargo 50, doing business as Azteca Mexican restaurant, Mexican restaurant to be located at 5081 Timberline Parkway South.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second location for this group. That's the same ownership group that has the current Plaza Azteca. We have had no issues with that license, and they're excited to get this new location open. It has gone through the background check and does come to you with a recommendation of approval.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this application? Anyone present who wishes to speak? I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do you know when they're going to open, Steve?
I think that they, my last conversation with them is that they're close to being ready.
Okay.
So,
Roll call vote, please.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item C, application for Class FA entertainment alcoholic beverage license for Fargo Billiards located at 3234 43 Avenue South. Addition of a new owner.
yes, so the current owners are taking on the longtime manager as a part owner, and that's really the only change. The current owners, Mike and Idell Page, are going to retain 95% ownership, and they're bringing on their manager so that over time she can purchase the business. Done the background check. There were a few issues in the manager's background, but we felt that most of those were dated. And so it does come to you with a recommendation of approval from the Liquor Control Board.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this application? Anyone present who wishes to speak? We'll close the public hearing, and do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston. Mahoney.
Aye. Item 28, recommendation to adopt resolution directing the issuance of a $57 million refunding improvement bond, Series 2023A, and prescribing the terms and covenants thereof. Terry Gayhart to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to introduce Brad Elmer from Baker Tilly, and he's going to explain to you all the details of the sale today. Your turn.
All right. Well, thank you, Terry, and thank you, Commissioners and Mayor. Brett Elmer with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. work with the city when you issue bonds. And this morning, the city did have a sale of refunding improvement bonds, or RIBs as they're known as, in the amount of $52.6 million that are repaid with special assessments. And the proceeds are used to fund capital improvement projects, including roads, utilities, alleys, and street lighting. So very successful sale this morning. You had 7 bids. You received bids from Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Baird, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Jefferies. The winning bid was submitted by Bank of America with a true interest cost of 3.649, so very favorable outcome. As you all know, we've seen rates go up over recent months, although more recently we've seen some favorable market movement. So this was, I think, a very good outcome. As part of the process, we also work with the city, with Terry and Steve, on the credit rating. The bonds are rated by Moody's at AA2, which is a very solid rating. Terry and Steve did a great job with the rating agencies describing the finances of Fargo, and I think we should be pleased with that outcome as well.
So you would say we're stable, city government's doing well with this financing?
Yep, that's exactly right. Again, the bonds were rated AA with a stable outlook.
And can you help us out? Do you think interest rates are going to drop a little bit in the next 6 months? Because we got some homeowners that want to buy houses.
Well, I wish I could predict the interest rates just like everyone else. They could go up or they could go down. The recent trend has been down some, so hopefully that continues.
So in light of everything going on in the country, this is an excellent report to us, is it not?
Yeah, I think you should feel very good about this.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Thank you for coming up, but congratulations on your new position.
Thank you very
Roll
much.
call vote, please.
Colpack,
Aye.
Preston,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 29, request to direct staff and city attorney to seek RFP to address the noise ordinance. I think Commissioner Strand, you're the one that started this one out, is that right?
Thank you, Mayor. You might all recall that we've re-engaged the modified version of the downtown work group to communicate with the downtown stakeholders and the neighborhoods and businesses and the DCP and BID and so on. And we've had a couple of those meetings already. City Auditor Steve Sprague has been coordinating the effort and channeling our energies, so to speak. Out of that process, and in the balcony view, everybody's wrestling around over the issues of buskers and performing arts and noise and activity downtown and times of when and where these activities can go on, and we just kept hitting a wall with different aspects of these topics. So long story short, our recommendation is to put out an RFP to bring in a consultant to give us some guidance, to study what others are doing, to learn what works well in other communities, and to present back to us, and to engage the stakeholders as well, and then to present back to us a recommendation for ordinances before spring that we could consider implementing to look at our downtown performances, noise, sound, time issues. So on that note, Steve Sprague, do you have anything you'd like to add to this? And thank you for taking the point on this. It's really making a big difference to have our auditor corralling our energies and bringing us together and looking at and having actions come out of that. So thank you.
John, would you anticipate a 60-day turnaround? So it's now January, could do February, March, or February, March, April, so we can have a decision before summer?
That's our hope, is to have this in place in a timely fashion, so going into spring, we know where we're going, and so do the people.
Mike, could you do an expedited RFP on this?
Yeah.
Yes, you can? Okay, thank you. Questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Kolpak?
Thank you, Chairman. John, I just have a question for you. In addition to the stakeholders from the work group, also you'll be including the appropriate staff who were working on this before the work group was begun?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
looking at
So for
Steve, and
instance-
he's giving me permission to nod my head,
That'd be
yes.
the police, attorneys, those people, John?
Right.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay. So is that a motion?
it's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second. Arlette can have it. Sorry,
Arlette
Commissioner.
can have the second.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Colpack,
Aye.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. You have my recommendations for appointments to the following boards: the Renaissance Zone Authority and the Historic Preservation Commission. And I have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Michael, we have legislative update.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the time this evening. I just want to provide a brief report as we are now underway with the legislative session in Bismarck, just about what we are doing with monitoring bills and getting ready for a successful session. I'm going to talk about a paper copy of a particular bill that I laid down in front of you at the dais this evening. That is House Bill 1273. That is specifically on point to ranked choice voting as well as approval voting, and a new proposal to prohibit that despite home rule authorities that have been adopted, and especially in our case here in the city of Fargo. So tonight I just want to provide you just a kind of a quick high-level overview of the first several days of the legislative session, and tell you that today was the last day that Senate bills could be introduced. There were 29 new Senate bills today, so if you look at the total scoreboard, as of Friday, we had 537 House bills. Their deadline for bill submissions was last week. We had 352 Senate bills as of Friday, so 352 plus 29. Of that list, we have the North Dakota League of Cities tracking 222 of those bills. And then on our list, our City of Fargo list, we are tracking 162 topics of interest. And let me just break that down a little bit further. There are a number of topics that are issues that we just simply watch. We want to see if they survive crossover. We want to see if they require any kind of intervention on our part later in the process. And so for the vast, vast majority of those bills in our list of 162, we will simply be watching and waiting to see if things survive later in the process. We have a whole number of topics that we've noticed have popped up this year on property tax statements, public information, the homestead credit program, some changes to the provisions of that program, some property tax freeze provisions for our senior citizens, as well as some special assessment legislation that we're going to take a keen interest in watching coming out of the House. Also want to acknowledge that the mayor was recently in Bismarck talking on the water bill. That is Senate Bill 2020. The Senate bill contains both the Red River Valley Water Supply Project as well as the diversion funding. I just noted on our lead call on Friday, there was over $118 million in statewide requests for projects and funding. The governor's budget at present, his proposal, includes about $60 million of requests for projects across the state. So we're going to watch that come into focus as well as we carefully monitor the water supply project as well as the diversion project. We have another budget forecast that will come out in March. That will be the final forecast that will guide all revenue projections as the legislature nears its finish line at the end of April. A couple of other notable hearings this week I just want to highlight. Senate Bill 2020 will have continued committee work. We also have got some of those property tax matters that I talked about earlier. The House Bill 1273, which is before you on the approval or ranked choice voting procedures, is also up this week. We have a number of ND PERS bills that are up this week. And then another one of notable interest and one that our planning office has put together some testimony on is on the home occupation and firearms sales bill. That's House Bill 1340. A couple other things I would just highlight. In the fire service, there's been some policy discussion and debate about relocating the state fire marshal's office, and that is contained in Senate Bill 2211. That is up this week. And then some eminent domain bills, that there's actually two of them, that would increase base awards for eminent domain actions by 33%. Those are bills that we're watching with Sean Fredericks from the Water Board, as well as Ian and Nancy, just to see what happens with those. So tonight, again, just wanted to talk very briefly at a high level about what it is that we're working on. Also talk about what will come forward now that we've made it to the Senate deadline today. We'll be doing a weekly email update to the commission just to show you kind of all tracked bills that we have on our list. And then also, we'll be sharing any of our testimony that we prepare on some of those bills for our Cass and Fargo legislators so that they can see, what we put together. So for example, on Senate Bill 2020, we've got that presentation that the mayor had provided. We'll make sure that they receive that. And then finally, I also just wanted to save a minute, if we could tonight, to talk about if the commission would want to take a formal position on 1273. The mayor provided some comments in the media on that. But I also want to just acknowledge and thank Commissioner Kolpak and the mayor as well. They are participating in the weekly legislative calls with the league, as well as our staff calls that we're doing every Friday. So you'll see more information about the session. We're just a few days in. We got several days yet to go here. We'll be at this now over the next 3 months. So I just want to provide that brief update tonight. And also just wanted to put out there too, if the commission desires any kind of special session outside of the regular meeting, if you'd want to do something in a study session, we'd be happy to organize that as well. Perhaps at crossover, if you wanted to talk in more detail about any of the legislative items that you'll start seeing in our tracking list. So I'll leave it at that and happy to answer any questions that the commissioners might have.
Just on the 2020 bill, you need to understand that the governor in his budget for the Red River Valley water supply put in $170 million. The Red River Water Supply has put out a budget of $255 million. So that's what we testified for, is the 255. In addition, local money goes into that and makes it up to $340 million would be spent on the project. The other major difference we've done in that project is we learned from the diversion. You do a 6-year build and you keep your inflationary costs down, your interest costs down, a lot of things down. And we initially looked at a 6.5-year build, which gives us some cost savings. But even if we do an 8-year build, it gives us some cost savings. So we've asked the House to come back with the Senate to endorse a 8-year build as well as that amount of money. Now, with the diversion, what we got was a bonding of money for $850 million, so that basically finished the diversion off. We would need a bonding bill of almost $1 billion to get this one to finish off as well. So right now, we're just talking about if they do it on a biennium, then we would go for the budgeting it over 4 bienniums. But just so you all know, the number is 255, not 170. The thing on approval voting, I would say a home rule charter is very important to protect, and the commission in the past has always been very strong on that. And whether you agree or disagree with approval voting, this is our right that we have as a home rule charter. And in the past, the commission has been very strong on that. So I basically feel in our position on this is that we should oppose this one. But I'm welcome to any advice from the commission. Mr. Preston.
I would suggest that we provide a pretty strong opposition to this one. However, and maybe we could have a little bit of conversation here about what are the different levels of support or opposition. When staff or when you, Mayor, provide some testimony, it would be nice for us to see the copies of those as well. So you're sending them out to legislators, please send them to us as well. So that would be one level. And then another level would be a letter or a statement, a position of statement from the entire commission, and or testimony and or a letter from the mayor. So in this particular one, I think it goes beyond home rule charter. It is a publicly voted on and approved by a large majority. And what's so disgusting with this one is that it has some local legislators on, and I'm not talking Fargo necessarily, but some local legislators on the bill. So I think on any of these that have a local control impact, we need to respond pretty strongly to that. This one, I would suggest that we send a letter with all 5 of our names on it. If you would want to prepare it, Mayor, and make sure we send a clear message that we're not in favor of this.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kolpak.
Thank you. I certainly support that, Commissioner Preston. And, just remind the audience and the citizens, it was a 63% approval vote on this measure. And I think it's insulting to the citizens of Fargo who voted in those numbers. So I certainly support that.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Mayor. And Michael, I appreciate the update. It's good to know that we're tracking these bills at the legislature. It's good to know that the mayor and Commissioner Kolpak are putting their focus on it. This notion, though, that the legislature can gut decisions made by cities without conscience is unacceptable. You know, we're talking, I think Fargo is 16% of the state. And this is votes of the citizens. And it's not just approval voting where it's been voted on by the people, but the gun issue where they're going to try force us to require, they call it a Second Amendment right, to force us to have gun sales in our neighborhoods. Change the zoning requirements so that they can prevail to push their preemption at us when we have this in place and have for almost, I think, 20 years, 8 or 9 or so, a handful of businesses that we don't allow in our neighborhoods, mortuaries and adult entertainment and kennels and garages and mechanics and car dealers and gun sales. But they're going to require us to have gun sales. I want to see these legislators defend having assault rifles across from schools. I want them to tell us why ghost guns and straw guns need to be protected and defended in our neighborhoods. I want to see them stand up and tell us why this is what they need in Fargo. Because the day is going to come where we're going to have one of these shootings in our community. And I want us to be able to say we tried to do something to preempt, to stop this movement in the country. We tried to do our best at the local level. I want to see them defend this. And I don't think it's defensible. You know, this notion, and then if you want to see my blood pressure go up, let's talk human rights. Let's talk what they're doing to the marginalized folks in our community that really have a difficult time, sometimes even existing. And they're going to pile on. And then in their next breath, they're going to talk about, gee, we're really concerned about addictions and substance abuse. And it's really disturbing. The suicide rates are going where they're going. And yet we're piling on these people. It's time. It's time for Fargo to tell our legislators, please focus on the highest priorities for the people, for the state, and quit doing this harm that you're doing, and acknowledge that you're doing it when you're doing it at a minimum. So I'll stop, but it's egregious what we're doing in messaging to folks who struggle in life. It's egregious.
Commissioner Preston, you brought up a good point about what level you get involved in our retreat, in which we're trying to figure this out. Sometimes in the past, on certain types of laws coming out, the commission has actually voted on it, so they know the extent. So if a commissioner would disagree, they have the option to vote against support or not support, but that would show the whole support of the commission. So maybe in our retreat, we'll get back into this, but I just don't want to presume that we meet everybody's needs. So your point of having 5 of the commissioners sign on or whatever, you know, it's either very firm support and we're going to put in testimony. Typically, we put in testimony this week. Nicole prepared some testimony and Jim did on certain elements. So a lot of times staff does it. But you're exactly right. When it gets to the level that the commissioners are concerned and want to participate in that, Michael, I think we have to sort that out so they have the option to be very much part of that and how important it is to our community. Because I think they have to judge, is this just a response to certain text or something, or is this something that the commission takes very seriously? It's really not where we would like the legislative to poke into. So just think about that a little bit, and that's why Mike and I try to read that, but oftentimes you'll say support, not support, or uncertain bills, and there's some obvious ones we would not support. So I just think that we need to discuss it as a team sometime and see what we want to do. Commissioner Preston.
So this one is actually coming up for a hearing this week, right? This 1273?
Correct.
So would it be appropriate if I make a motion that you prepare a letter with all 5 of our names, if we all are in support, and send that into the legislative committee?
Take that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I guess I'm not comfortable making making everyone sign a document. That's my main, I think it should be optional, that if you want to sign it, that you, do you know what I mean? To us have a vote requiring everyone, I don't think that's healthy either. So I think everybody that wants to should. That's just my comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, that's my intent, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that? Roll call vote, please.
Preston,
Aye.
Colpack,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye.
And if, Mr. Chairman, if I could make one, and anything that's got to do with local control, I think we need to be doing this.
Mr. Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. Another point that I would suggest is there's 3 branches of government. We already took the gun issue to our district court, so that's one branch of government, the judicial branch. Yes, we're working with the legislators as well. I would strongly encourage us to keep our communications with the governor's office open as much as possible and implore them to raise the bar for higher standards, to have us have more conscience with some of these topics, and to, when possible, veto some of these bills. And lastly, one question. It'd be good if we found a moment to have, if the legislators are on a recess or a break, if they're coming home, let's have coffee with them. Let's find just a place and a space here in our local backyard that we can just show up and have coffee and talk to our legislators, because we're not all out there, but if they come here, that'd be really beneficial as well.
If I could add to that, Commissioner, thank you for that suggestion. We have done that in the past at Crossover, and I think we should definitely try to strive for that again this year. We were not able to coordinate a time with West Fargo and Cass County before the session got going and they got organized, but that's a great suggestion. We'll keep that at top of mind. And then for those other items too, I just wanted to acknowledge, I didn't do this earlier, but Matt Gardner, our new league director, Terry Efforts, our contract lobbyist, as well as Rocky Schneider, all 4 of us rather, are working together and trying to kind of plug and play, figuring out what staff we need, when we need them, attorney's office, everybody, kind of all hands to make sure we're really staying on top of this. Now that the universe is known and all bills are submitted, this will really help us to kind of better understand too, I think, where we really need to focus those efforts, and to Commissioner Preston's point, to see where that level of response should be. I'll give you one other example, and that's as it relates to some of the infrastructure funding. That's one that just today, Brendan and I were talking with the mayor, and there are just some of those matters that rise up to what I call the tectonic plate level that are really, really big and require a much larger look and view. Then there's some other ones that we're very comfortable as staff to respond to at more of a micro level. So, but we'll keep the commission apprised of developments, and we'll work on a crossover gathering. And we would notice that as a public meeting of the commission too, so that we could invite the entire commission and perhaps the West Fargo Commission and Cass Commission as well. So thank you.
Commissioner Pepcorn?
So real quick, Mr. Chair, talking about the gun sales in the neighborhoods, we prevailed with a judge finding in our favor. So I think from the city attorney's perspective, we should be on top of this because it's going through the legislature at the same time, and say, no, we've already prevailed. And so if you do this, you're going to go against the judge's ruling. So whether we need to get the attorney general involved or not, because from our perspective, I think we'll if they try to keep doing it, then we'll keep winning in court. And so we don't want to waste taxpayer dollars. So whatever we need to do, I think, to be on top of that. And I don't, maybe you have some suggestions on what we can do in the interim, like right now, Ian. And I don't know if you are prepared to comment on that, but I think we should.
Yeah, so that bill is being heard on Thursday, and I'm working with Eric, and we are going to provide comment here this week on it.
That one is also, I'm sorry, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Preston?
That one is also coming up this week.
That is on Thursday, yes.
Well, then I think we should do the same thing for this one. A letter from all of us, if we're willing to sign on to it.
I'll make the motion to do that if that's okay, because I think that's one. But the thing that's even more so with I think they're both, but this one, we have a ruling in our favor. And so they're intentionally going against a judge's ruling. And so to me, that's even egregious, whatever you want to call it. But so I'll make the motion to do the similar thing, if that's okay.
Egregious is a good word.
Second.
Ms. Preston? Any other comments on this? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Colpack.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. So this is a new format Mike is going to try to do with us. If this works with the commissioners, we could also do a lunchtime sometime if you want to go through the bills. There's a lot of bills out there, but a lot of them will go away the next couple of weeks really quickly. But when it gets to real serious time, we need to make sure we make time for this. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, liaison commissioner assignment updates. Mr. Strand.
Thank you, Mayor. A few of us might be able to report that a week ago tonight, we were attending with throngs of people from the community the Martin Luther King event at the Fargo Theater, annual event put on by Fred Dissonance, Frederick Edwards and Fred Dissonance this year, and with Reach Partners and so on, with city sponsorship and Essentia and United Way. I think it was called Moja 54. It was an absolutely extraordinary event. It was just extraordinary. One of the best I've ever seen in Fargo. And just noting too that Commissioner Preston and I were among 27 folks nominated for awards, but in our audience, deservedly so, Wes Philomé also was one of the primary recipients of a Martin Luther King Award that night. And I'm very proud of you, Wes, as an activist, for what you do. But what a great event in our community. Just half the people on stage had never been on stage before. There were a couple of musicians that literally took me to tears. Their power and their messaging and their talent. So what a good, wonderful, diverse community we have here.
Commissioner Kolpak.
Yes, as liaison to the fire department, I just would like to announce two recent, one upcoming and one recent retirement. First, Fire Captain Mark Waller, who retired January 18th after 35 years of service, which is incredible. And again, upcoming this Friday, Battalion Chief Bruce Anderson, who will be retiring after 32 years. So thank you for your service.
I have no report tonight. We've been busy out in Bismarck trying to get support for things. Mr. Preston.
Just echo Commissioner Strand's comments and congratulations to Wes for a well-deserved award. I had the opportunity about a week ago, I think it was, to spend an hour on a Zoom call with the new consultants for the growth plan. And we had a long conversation about, it was actually one of the subcontractors that is going to be looking at the economic analysis side of the growth plan. And the individual that is heading that up, we talked a lot about what that might look like, what kind of information we probably will be coming our way. So I was very impressed and look forward to working with them as time goes on, and I think we'll be impressed with the information we're going to be getting. So,
Mr. Pepcorn.
Just real quick, engineering was here, and also inspections. Obviously, I drove by, they're finishing knocking down the house and filling in the house that was removed, and so that's great. That's great for the neighborhood, and it was obviously a difficult thing for lots of people, and so hopefully we can start with a fresh page and something productive will be there. So that was good today to see. And I want to thank the police. They were there on site for providing safety for the neighborhood and also for the construction, the people doing the work. That was great to have because I think it was important and good for everybody to have that there. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think your inspection department went over and above as well, Dave, because he missed his 4-hour window to take personal property out. And that team took 13 boxes out and got it to him, including his grandmother's china. So I think the inspections department did a great job in trying to accommodate some of it. It was difficult to deal with. So
this isn't my liaison, but I was in Winnipeg for the Red River Basin Commission. I'm the vice chair for 2 years, so that's it's a great group, and obviously it's flood protection and water issues, and so it's lots of fun and international group. So Lord knows how I got to be deputy chair. I don't know, but it's lots of fun. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Don't you eventually become chair? Absolutely. Yeah. Mr. Strand.
Before we adjourn, Mayor, our new city administrator's birthday is February 4th, Michael, so you know we're all thinking of you, and our legal counsel Nancy's Morris's birthday is the 26th. I don't want to forget these high priority items.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.